The superstar duo LeDoncic wasn't enough as the Lakers were bounced from this year's playoffs in an early first-round exit. 4-1 series loss to Minnesota. Luka averaged 30.2 points per game, while LeBron averaged 25.4 a game. However, James made it clear on the Mind the Game podcast that the duo can't do it all by themselves. Take a listen.
I've definitely learned over the years that teams win championships, and it's never always teams always win championships. And yes, individuals get a lot of the accolades and the praise, but a collective group, wins championships. Now, you have your big guys that make big plays at the end of games, throughout the game, or whatever the case may be, but ultimately, teams win championships, and I understand that. And it's never just about me and Luka. It was never just about, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. It was always Minnesota versus the Lakers. And I understand that. And I am at a point in my career now where I don't lose sleep over that. Like, how did me and Luka lose?
No.
Well, yeah. There's 8 other guys on the floor.
Ooh, potentially juicy. Windy, any problems with the comments?
I happen to agree with every single syllable that he said. He's at a spot in his career where he isn't going to have to prove anything. We're in the gravy portion of his career, and he's absolutely correct. He's been on teams where he's been the far and away dominant player, and it hasn't been enough. He carried the 2007 Cavs, for example, to the finals. It was amazing they got there, and then they got wiped out by the Spurs because they had a vastly better team. He's been on the Heat team that got there by a narrow margin and got wiped out by the Spurs. And in this series, the Lakers at a certain point, JJ Redick only had trust in 5 players, whereas the Wolves had a 6th man of the year over there in Naz Reid and all kinds of production from all up and down the lineup. So I also don't think this Lakers team is in position. I mean, I think there was a smoke and mirrors thing where they could have made a run. There was a lane they could have hit. They didn't. I don't think the Lakers team is built out. And by the way, they don't just need a center. They probably need at least 3 players this offseason to have a real chance to jump up there. I agree.
I say your body language tells me that you feel otherwise. But just let me say that I agree with Wendy. What do you want this man to say? You want him to throw Luka under the bus? JJ Redick already did that with conditioning. At the end of the day, it doesn't behoove LeBron to articulate his passion or his fight. You know who he is. You know what he stands for. You know how competitive he is. You know he's willing to do anything it would take to win another championship. Just this line here, doesn't lose sleep, does not mean that he does not hold himself accountable or Luka accountable. Of course he does. But saying that publicly does nothing for him. You know how he is behind closed doors. It's the same guy that's going to take Luka and say, hey, look, we got to be in championship condition to win this. And yes, personnel does play into this. How do we make moves to get better personnel? We ran up against some dudes who were younger, who have more legs, who have more athletic ability, and we were undermanned. And also JJ had to learn on his coaching curve as well. So all these things are true. We know what it is.
Y'all finish?
I knew it.
Wendy, Jay, LeBron James was 1,000% correct. And so are y'all. Why didn't you just spend time again in front of the microphone and say the sky's blue? Who the hell doesn't know that he's right?
Not today.
That's why I'm looking like that. It's obvious. It's totally, totally true. Here's why I look that way and why I look at y'all with a raised eyebrow over this. While it's 1,000% true, I don't disagree with a word that he said. And it was a complete waste of time to hear him say that.
That we'll see how he wakes up this morning. Steph Curry, not as much. So it pains me to ask the question this way, Michael Wilbon, but if Steph Curry is not able to make it back into this series, are the Warriors done?
Yeah. I mean, Minnesota's too good. Minnesota's the team in the West, I thought, coming into the playoffs that could beat Oklahoma City. They had a good run last year. We saw what Minnesota's capable of. And we spent all year, I did anyway, waiting for them to get back to that space. I think they were 21 and
so we don't really know with Steph. Let's play it. Let's play the sound as we talk about it here, because And I've been saying for the last couple of days, the basketball gods just cannot do this to us. You don't want to see Steph in this year where they make this aggressive move to get Jimmy Butler. They look like they've got a real chance. Now he's got the hamstring for the first time in his career. Here he was yesterday.
When you're 27, you feel like, you're obviously in your prime. Like every opportunity I have now, you don't want it to be wasted on an injury. Like I'm thankful it wasn't worse, and I'm very aware of and appreciative that I have even a chance to come back. Injuries are always hard emotionally, just because none of this is guaranteed to be back, in this environment or in the playoff experience, and have an opportunity like that.
What do you think, Wendy?
Yeah, so he doesn't know how his hamstring is going to feel 9 days from now, and that's what everybody's targeting, Game 6. The Warriors got to figure out how to get one win in the next 3 games to get them to Game 6, and maybe he might not be able to play in Game 6. Nobody knows. I would say their offense has just gone to pot when he's not out there. They score 116 points in the playoffs per 100 possessions when he's on the court. When he's off the court, it plummets. Look at that, 93 basically. That is unrecoverable. They got to find offense from somewhere. If you're looking for a ray of light, Jonathan Kuminga played a huge second half. They actually made a run with him on the court. He made 8 straight shots at one point. They need the offense from somewhere. Maybe Kuminga's getting hot.
Kuminga was 8 of 11 last night, 18 points in 26 minutes off the bench. You sort of forecast this. You said, not Buddy Hield all of a sudden has to go from being the supporting actor
to the main character
to all of a sudden the main character, and you could see the difference.
And you saw at the start of the game too that they basically took the Steph Curry defense and put it on Buddy Hield and said, well, we're not going to let you get hot, because he can get hot. And he was, to start the game, not good. He missed a bunch of shots. He had a bad turnover, and that led to the 13-0. He was, overwhelmed by the fact that now you're the lead character and they're coming at you. It was a weird Steve Kerr game too, because he was trying to figure out, how am I going to create offense? Jimmy Butler, maybe have him play sort of a point forward. Played a ton of players, like you mentioned, Wendy, earlier. 14 players played in this game in the first half, which you never see in the playoffs, as if they were searching for something.
I don't think I've seen it in the preseason.
In the preseason, in the first half, yeah.
I've never, this is the box score from last night's game. There's only one DNP on it, and it's Steph Curry, unfortunately, because of the injury. Literally everyone else from the Warriors got into this game at some point or another. And so, look, Michael, we'll have to wait and see. What is the Jimmy Butler, as we sit, look, they're not done. Maybe they find a way to win one of these 2 games at home.
I think they win.
You think they win a game?
Absolutely.
One of the 2 at home?
Absolutely. Minnesota, as I sit there and pumped them up, and think they could beat Oklahoma City in the right circumstances, they could. They still are flawed. Minnesota does stuff with just brain-dead moments. We've seen that. We saw it last year, even though they got to the conference final. We saw it against Denver when they were up 2-0 after winning 2 games in Denver. This is what Minnesota does. They do things that confound you. I was on the text back and forth with a Hall of Fame player the other night, and I said, is it just me, or does Minnesota... And before I could finish the line, he just texted back, go to sleep? Yeah.
I will say this. Ant Edwards got called out by his coach after Game 1, Chris Finch, and he wasn't talking about scoring. He was talking about being a playmaker. He thought Ant was not actively helping his team. 9 assists. He had 2 assists in Game 1, 9 assists last night. Totally reacted to his coach. We all pay attention to it when the coach calls out the player. We should pay attention to it when the player responds to the coach.
But how long does it last? It doesn't last forever. Those things never last forever. Yes, you get a reaction in the moment. Oklahoma City reacted to losing a game they shouldn't have lost, and they trashed Denver. Does that last to Denver? No, it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. And so I think the Warriors can get one of these next 2.
If they get one, you got to believe, because the history of the sport shows us this with the great players, especially the greatest players, he will find a way to get on the floor.
For Game 6.
He will find a way to get on the floor. And even if he's just a magnet, a decoy, it doesn't matter. It does make them better, just his presence.
I will mention again, for those of you who haven't been following it, there's a scheduling quirk in this series because the arena in San Francisco is in use on the Friday night where Game 6
Valkyries,
would normally
the WNBA
have
team, the Valkyries' first game. It's a huge moment.
Their first ever game. Yeah. So as you see there, look at the numbers. It goes from the 12th to the 14th all the way to the 18th. So that's a week from Sunday. So in theory, Steph would have, that would be a total of 11 days from the time of the injury. So that it's almost 2 weeks. Yeah. So if they can get it to that, if they can find a way to win, again, I'm not sitting here trying to openly root for them, but you don't want to see Steph go out this way. If they can get it to a Game 6, maybe he's able to play, and then we'll see what winds up happening. If the T-Wolves are going to win this series, I hope they do it against a full-strength Warriors. In the meantime, we showed you also the incident on the court with Draymond Green involving him and Naz Reid, and he winds up getting the technical there. Adding to his night, while Green was on a stationary bike in the tunnel near the Warriors bench, he got into a back and forth with a fan. That fan was ejected for directing a racial slur at Draymond Green. After the game, Draymond gave a quick statement to reporters.
Look like the angry black man. I'm not an angry black man. I'm a very successful, educated black man with a great family. And I'm great at basketball. I'm great at what I do. The agenda to try to keep making me look like an angry black man is crazy. I'm sick of it. It's ridiculous.
I will repeat again, we do not know specifically what the context of his comments are, which is to say, was he referring to the incident on the court, or more likely referring to the incident that takes place on the bike where he's, keeping himself warm or whatever it is, and the fans are always very near to those, and whatever it is that someone said to him, it was enough that someone was ejected.
Keep in mind, it was in the fourth
from
quarter,
the arena,
later in the game.
much later in the game than the incident which took place in the second. So I don't want to make any assumptions on something this sensitive, but it does seem more as though he was referring to that than what happened on the floor earlier. Michael, you spoke very eloquently about this a little bit earlier this morning. New audience joining us here. What is your reaction to what Draymond said?
Am I surprised?
Đấy, mình sẽ móc tiếp những mối tiếp theo nhé. Gỡ thêm lên ra để dùng. Rồi bây giờ sẽ móc tiếp xuống. Rồi, móc tiếp xuống nữa này. Móc tiếp vào. Lần lượt cho mình. Đây, mũi tiếp theo. Đấy, mình sẽ móc vòng quanh nhé. Móc tiếp những mũi nữa cũng y như vậy. Tiếp nha mọi người. Đây, mũi tiếp theo này. Rồi, mũi tiếp theo. Đấy, mình móc tiếp xuống. Rồi, móc tiếp xuống. Cứ lần lượt như vậy là được. Tiếp nha. Bây giờ móc tiếp những mũi tiếp theo. Móc tiếp xuống nhé.